Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to lesson 27. In this lesson, we're going to cover the word illa. Illa appears more than 600 times in the Quran, and it can appear in two different ways. It can either appear after a positive statement, meaning something happened, illa, except for a particular condition. So in this case, it's usually translated as except. Now it can also appear after a negative statement. So nothing happened or something did not happen, except for a particular case that did happen. And this usually appears, illa appears later in the sentence, and earlier in the sentence you have one of these four words, la, lan, in, or ma. In the second case, illa is often translated into English as only, as we'll see in the examples later on. So let's start with illa after a positive statement. In this case, the exceptional case, has to appear in the mansub form. Now let's take a look at an example to see what I mean by that. Sharibu minhu illa qalilan minhum. Sharibu minhu means they drank from it. Okay, so this is the positive statement. They drank from it. Something did happen. Illa qalilan minhum. Except for some of them. Except for a few of them. Okay. So now this here, you see qalilan has to appear in the mansub case, because these are the people that didn't do this action. So they drank from it except a few of them. Okay, let's see another example. This appears several times in the Quran. Sajadu illa iblisa. They prostrated themselves, so referring to the angels. They prostrated themselves except Iblis. And again, we see Iblis is in the mansub case, that's why you have a fatha here. Kullu shay'in halikun illa wajha. Everything, kullu shay'in is how you say everything in Arabic. Every or all things. Halikun will perish. Illa, except wajha, his countenance. And you see here wajh is face or countenance. And you'll notice it appears again in the mansub case, wajha. And then wajhahu, his face or his countenance. Okay, so that's the positive statements. Now let's look at illa after a negative statement. So after a negative statement, you can put the word illa, and then when the exception appears, it has to appear in the case that its logical positive word would have had. So let's try to understand that with an example here. So take a look at this first sentence here. Ma dhahaba ahadun. So here ma is being used in the sense of negation. So ahadun dhahaba means someone left or one left. Ma dhahaba ahadun, no one left. No one left. Illa zaydun. Now notice zaydun is in the marfu'a case because its logical positive word here, ahadun, is also in the marfu'a case. So no one left, ahadun, one did not leave, except Zayd. Because ahadun is a marfu'a, Zayd should also be marfu'a because it's the subject of the sentence. So in the negative statement, you have to look at, okay, Zayd is kind of like the subject here, so it will also be in the logical positive. Okay, now the tricky thing is that sometimes the word ahadun will not even appear there. So this happens very frequently in Quranic Arabic. Ma dhahaba illa zaydun. So he did not leave except for Zayd. That's the literal translation. But what this means idiomatically is only Zayd left. Okay, only Zayd left. So you can drop the ahadun. But still in this case, you have to put zaydun in the marfu'a case because it's the logical subject of this sentence. Okay, let's take a look at a different example just to understand what else you could happen. You can have ma sami'atu ahadan illa zaydan. I did not hear one. Okay, so here sami'atu ahadan means I heard someone. Ma sami'atu ahadan, I did not hear anyone. Except for Zayd, illa zaydan. Here, the illa is modifying the object of the sentence. I didn't hear anyone except for Zayd. Okay, so because Zaydan is corresponding to this ahadan, which is the object of the sentence, Zayd also appears in the mansub case. So again, just like before, you can have a situation where ahadan does not even appear in the sentence. Ma sami'atu illa Zaydan. I heard only Zayd, and Zayd still has to appear in the mansub case. Okay, and this can also happen in the majroor case. Suppose you had a verb that took a preposition. You could have bi ahadin illa bi zaydin rather, And so again, if that was the case, you can also have the word after an exception have the majrur case. Again, only after a negative, if the illa appears after a negative statement. Okay. So just to recap, after a positive statement, it has to be in the mansub case. After a negative statement, you have to consider logically what the right case should be. However, there is one exception to this rule, which is that if the exception is of a different kind altogether, then you have to use the mansub case. What do I mean here? So take a look at this sentence here. ما شرب القوم إلا حمارا. Okay, the people did not drink. Okay, so the people did not drink except for a donkey. Now this here is, you can't really say except in English because a donkey is not part of the people. Okay, it's more like saying none of the people drank, but a donkey did. It's just more of a concise version of saying that. And because himar is not logically part of qawm, you have to use the mansub case to indicate that it's of a different kind altogether. So ma sharib al qawmu illa himaran, none of the people drank, but a donkey did. Alright, and I will mention that so far we've been looking at ma as the negative word, and that does appear very commonly in the Quran, but you can also have in, lan, or la. So let's take a few examples here. Mal Masih ibn Maryam illa Rasul. The Messiah, son of Mary, was not except a prophet. Okay, and more translating this more idiomatically, we have the Messiah, son of Mary, was only a prophet, or was only a messenger. Okay, let's take a look at another example. In hadha illa sihrun mubin. So this is not except for clear magic. Again, translating this more idiomatically, this is only, or this is simply clear magic. Okay, so they all use the same form. You can see ma, illa, in, illa, and again, after any of these words, you have to look at the logical case of the exception. So here, sihrun is referring to the subject of a sentence. That's why I put in marfu'. Here again, we put in marfu'. Last example, لن تمسنا النار إلا أياما معدودة. The fire will not touch us, except for a few days. Ayyam is a few, ayyam is days, ma'dudah is a few, or counted, a numbered. And again, ayyam is a plural, it's a broken plural, so ma'dudah is a feminine singular. But لن تمسنا النار إلا أياما معدودة, and the fire will not touch us except for a few days. And because this is it's not the subject, it's more of an adverbial phrase, we see here it's in the mansub case. Okay, it's not the subject, and it doesn't appear after a preposition, so you put in the mansub case. Okay, so time for some exercises that allow us to practice what we have learned. من يغفر الذنوب إلا الله. Who forgives sins except for God? Who forgives sins except for Allah? And the word Allah appears in what case? Appears in the marfu' case because it's referring to the subject of the sentence. Allah is the forgiver of sins. لا يذكرون الله إلا قليلا. لا يذكرون الله إلا قليلا. They do not remember God. Okay, they do not remember God except a few of them. So only a few remember Allah. ما أرسلنا من رسول إلا بلسان قومه. Okay, we did not send a messenger except in the tongue of his people. Okay, now in this case, this is not so much of an exception to this. This is more of modifying this phrase. It's saying that we only sent messengers, we only sent Rasul in the language of their people. And so we just have the phrase in the language of his people, in the tongue of his people. And so because it appears after be, it has to take the kasra. إن نحن إلا بشر مثلكم. We are only a people like yourselves. We are only human like yourselves. Okay. Now you can do a few more examples here, a few more exercises on your own. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.